Everyone had their parents showing up at career day in designer clothes and new cars. And who came for me? That arrogant old professor with his tweed jacket and that technical jargon nobody understood. Meredith spat, her manicured fingers tightening around her luxury handbag. Her eyes blazed with a toxic mixture of entitlement and bitterness that made my stomach turn. After subjecting me to that humiliation throughout school, I absolutely deserve a share of his precious patents. I stared at my sister, shock washing over me like ice water. My heart pounded against my ribs as I processed her words. These were the same grandparents who had lovingly welcomed us into their home when our world shattered, who had dried our tears and kept us together as a family. And now they were being treated like worthless obstacles by my own flesh and blood. Meredith, we were happy, I said, my nurse's training helping me maintain composure even as anger flared inside me. When Mom and Dad died in that plane crash, we could have ended up anywhere. Do you realize how lucky we were that Grandpa Morris and Grandpa Henry took all three of us in? Most kids in our situation get separated in the system. Being together as siblings was a gift, not a burden. My voice grew stronger with each word, fueled by the memory of countless patients I cared for who had no family at all. I feel nothing but profound gratitude toward our grandparents, not a single drop of resentment. I'm sorry, but you and Trent seem to have forgotten what truly matters. As far as I'm concerned, my real family consists of Grandpa Morris and Grandpa Henry. I don't need a sister and brother who treat the people who saved us like they're nothing. I'm Caitlin, a pediatric nurse specializing in palliative care. My parents died in a plane crash when I was just 6 years old, leaving me with no clear memories of them. I've been told I was at their funeral, clutching a teddy bear and not understanding why everyone was crying. My sister Meredith and brother Trent are considerably older. They were teenagers when it happened, so they remember our parents vividly. After the accident, our grandparents immediately stepped in and took us all in. Grandpa Morris, a retired engineering professor, and Grandpa Henry, a former aerospace engineer, who together held several valuable patents, created a stable home for us. They were structured and had high expectations, but their love was constant and unconditional. Their discipline, I now realize, was aimed at helping us become resilient, caring adults. Unfortunately, Meredith and Trent grew to resent our grandparents. The moment they graduated from college, they moved out and barely looked back. Holiday dinners, family celebrations, even simple Sunday visits, they're never present. Christmas gifts I send them on behalf of our grandfathers sit unopened, and their birthdays pass without acknowledgement. I've never understood their coldness. I cherish my relationship with both Grandpa Morris and Grandpa Henry. I live in the guest house on their property, close enough to help but with my own space. Grandpa Morris seemed to expect I'd eventually distance myself too, but I've reassured him countless times that I'm exactly where I want to be. I wonder how those two are managing, Grandpa Morris would often muse, staring at old family photos with concern etching lines around his kind eyes. They never return my calls or emails. Watching my grandparents worry about Meredith and Trent filled me with a complicated mix of sadness and frustration. How could they abandon the people who had sacrificed so much to give us a loving home? The contrast between their devotion and my siblings' callousness created a wound that never fully healed. I was checking a child's IV drip at the hospital when my phone vibrated against my hip. The moment I saw Grandpa Morris's name on the screen, my heart lurched. He never called during my shifts. Caitlin, it's Morris. Henry's collapsed. His voice cracked with fear. They've taken him to Memorial. I raced across town, my scrubs still on, praying silently the whole way. When I arrived, Grandpa Morris was sitting alone in the consultation room, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. The oncologist's words hit like physical blows: stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Metastasized to the liver and lungs. Terminal. We're looking at months, not years, the doctor said, her compassion evident but her prognosis merciless. I'm so sorry. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. My professional knowledge made the diagnosis even more devastating. I knew exactly what was coming. We sought 3 different opinions, hoping for a miracle that never came. Each specialist confirmed what we dreaded: Grandpa Henry's brilliant mind was housed in a body that was failing him rapidly. For 3 weeks, Grandpa Henry underwent preliminary treatments while Grandpa Morris and I grappled with our new reality. One evening, I found Grandpa Morris staring out the hospital window, his shoulders slumped. "Are you holding up okay?" I asked, touching his arm gently, noting the new lines etched into his face. "I'll manage," he replied with a small, brave nod. When you've lived as long as I have, you learn that some things must simply be accepted, however painful. About what happens next, I said carefully, I want to honor whatever Grandpa Henry wants. Your thoughts? We're completely aligned on that, Caitlin. Grandpa Morris squeezed my hand. Relief washed through me. So if he wants to come home after discharge, you're okay with that? We could care for him there? Absolutely, he answered without a moment's hesitation. I'll be his primary caregiver. I've already been researching what we'd need. I want to help too, I offered, feeling a surge of purpose. Between my nursing experience and your engineering mind for solving problems, we can make this work together. Grandpa Morris's eyes shimmered with tears. Henry would be so touched by your dedication. The next day, we approached Grandpa Henry together. What are you thinking about for after discharge? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady and professional. I've been considering a hospice facility, he replied, his eyes fixed on his hands. Really? Why? I couldn't hide my surprise. There's a good one near the coast. The patients' rooms have ocean views. His voice was unconvincing. I recognized the evasion immediately. I'd seen it countless times with patients trying to spare their families. Grandpa, remember what you taught me about honesty and engineering? That integrity is everything? He glanced up, startled. What do you mean? You want to come home, don't you? But you're worried about burdening us. I held his gaze. We don't see it that way at all. Please tell us what you really want. His shoulders sagged in relief. Yes, he admitted quietly. Home would be best. Then that's where you'll be, I promised, squeezing his hand. Tears filled his eyes. Caitlin, your compassion reminds me so much of your mother. Thank you. We spent the following days arranging for home care equipment and visiting nurse services. My colleagues in palliative care provided invaluable advice. When we outlined our comprehensive plan to Grandpa Henry, his smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. Grandpa Henry came home, and our decision to enlist professional support proved invaluable. The hospice care specialists guided us through unfamiliar territory, showing us how to manage pain medication, recognize concerning symptoms, and provide comfort. Their expertise transformed our anxious fumbling into confident care. With their help, Grandpa Morris and I developed a seamless routine that allowed us to focus on what mattered most, quality time together. I'd often walk into the sunroom to find them deep in conversation, Grandpa Henry in his adjustable hospital bed and Grandpa Morris beside him, their hands occasionally meeting in a gentle touch. The technical journals on the side table remained well-thumbed. Even now, they discussed engineering innovations that had shaped their careers. Caitlin, Grandpa Henry called to me one afternoon as I adjusted his have you spoken with Meredith or Trent recently? His question caught me off guard. Not really, I admitted, checking his pulse out of habit. He nodded slowly. Before I go, I'd very much like to see them one more time. That evening, I steeled myself and called Meredith. The phone rang 4 times before she answered. What? Caitlin? What do you want? Her voice was sharp with irritation and distant with years of silence. Grandpa Henry is asking for you, I said, keeping my voice neutral despite the churning in my stomach. I can't possibly. My schedule is completely booked with client meetings. But he. Stop pushing. When I say I can't make it, I can't make it. End of discussion. Desperation made me blunt. He's dying, Meredith. Pancreatic cancer. It's terminal. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. What did you say? Her tone had shifted entirely. I explained Grandpa Henry's diagnosis and prognosis in clinical terms. With each detail, her resistance melted away. In that case, I absolutely must see him, she said, concern suddenly flooding her voice. Right away. Trent should come too, I suggested, suspicious of her sudden change of heart. Yes, of course. I'll handle contacting him. Do you have his number? I thought. Don't worry about it, she interrupted. We've stayed in touch. I'll arrange everything. 3 days later, they arrived together in Meredith's luxury SUV. I watched from the kitchen window as they checked their appearances in the car mirrors before approaching the house. Grandpa Henry. Meredith rushed to his bedside, designer purse still on her arm. Are you comfortable? Do you need anything? Trent hovered nearby, his expression a practiced mask of concern. You're looking stronger than I expected, he offered awkwardly. Grandpa Henry's face brightened like a sunrise. My children have come home, he said, his voice stronger than it had been in days. Now I can die happy, seeing you both again. The joy in his eyes was painful to witness. After a brief, stilted conversation, Meredith suddenly announced they needed to take me to lunch to discuss care arrangements. Before I could protest, I found myself being ushered to a nearby diner. "You two completely ignored Grandpa Morris," I said the moment we slid into a booth. "He was trying to speak with you both. Did you not notice?" "Who cares about that obsessive old professor?" Meredith dismissed with a flick of her wrist. "More important question, how much time does Grandpa Henry actually have left?" The question hit me like a slap. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Terminal means what, 6 months? Less? And more importantly, what's the status of his patent portfolio? Those aerospace engineering innovations must be worth millions by now." The truth crashed down on me with sickening clarity. They hadn't come to reconcile or say goodbye, they'd come to assess their potential windfall. My parents had founded a successful engineering firm before their deaths, and Grandpa Henry and Grandpa Morris jointly held several valuable patents that had continued generating significant royalties. "What are you staring at?" Meredith snapped, tapping her French manicured nails on the table. "I'm asking about the value of his estate." "I honestly don't know," I replied, my nurse's training helping me maintain composure despite my disgust. "Seriously? You live there and haven't bothered to find out?" She rolled her eyes. "Completely useless, as always. This was a waste of my afternoon." Rage burned inside me, but I kept silent. The financial details were handled exclusively by Grandpa Morris, who managed their joint patent portfolio with meticulous care. When my siblings realized I couldn't provide the information they wanted, they abruptly ended lunch. In the weeks that followed, they visited with unsettling frequency. I recognized their strategy, the solicitous attention, the carefully timed questions about legal matters, but couldn't bring myself to expose them. Watching Grandpa Henry's face light up at their visits broke my heart, but shattering his final illusion seemed crueler than allowing the deception to continue. I considered warning Grandpa Morris, but seeing his quiet contentment when the family appeared whole again stopped the words in my throat. After weeks of steady decline, Grandpa Henry passed away peacefully one rainy morning. Grandpa Morris and I were holding his hands as he took his final breath. Despite my urgent messages to Meredith and Trent about his condition, neither appeared during his final hours. Grief settled over me like a heavy blanket, but there was no time to collapse. Funeral arrangements demanded immediate attention. Grandpa Morris and I worked side by side, finding comfort in the necessary tasks. The memorial service drew colleagues from across the engineering world, former students, research partners, and industry leaders whose careers had been touched by Grandpa Henry's innovations. Meredith and Trent arrived late to the service, dressed impeccably but contributing nothing. They stood apart from the gathering, checking their phones during the eulogies. Their detachment filled me with a cold fury I struggled to contain. We completed the memorial without their help, honoring a brilliant mind and generous heart while they remained like spectators at a stranger's funeral. The morning after we scattered Grandpa Henry's ashes, the doorbell rang. Meredith and Trent stood on the porch, their expressions unnervingly confident. They barely acknowledged the portrait of Grandpa Henry displayed in the entryway as they strode into the living room. "We need to discuss the inheritance," Meredith announced without preamble. "It's barely been 24 hours, I objected. "Surely this can wait?" "He's gone," she replied flatly. "Waiting changes nothing. Have some respect. His memory deserves." "Enough sentimentality," Meredith interrupted, pulling a document from her leather portfolio. "We have Grandpa Henry's will right here." I took the paper with trembling hands. The handwriting was unmistakably his, the precise, architectural script I'd seen on birthday cards and lab notes. I glanced at Grandpa Morris, but his expression remained surprisingly composed. "According to this will, Grandpa Henry left his entire patent portfolio and assets to Trent and me," Meredith declared triumphantly. "The estimated value is $12 million. "That's impossible," I whispered. "He would never." "It's his handwriting, isn't it?" She tapped the signature with a manicured finger. The document looked authentic, but the content was absurd. Why would Grandpa Henry leave his intellectual property share to them rather than his lifelong research partner? Grandpa Morris was still actively managing their joint innovations. The will contradicted everything I knew about their relationship, but I had no legal counterargument. "This house belongs to him too, correct?" Trent added, eyeing the high ceilings. "The house and all patents are now ours," Meredith stated coldly. "You should find somewhere else to live. Take the old professor with you if you must." I stood frozen, professional composure finally shattered. Their smirks of victory made my stomach turn. "Nothing to say?" Meredith taunted. Grandpa Morris, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. Yes, that is indeed Henry's handwriting, he confirmed calmly. Exactly what I've been saying, Meredith replied smugly. Let's be clear, if this will is authentic, then his share of our joint assets would be yours, Grandpa Morris acknowledged. Precisely. The inheritance is settled, Trent said, loosening his tie. Is that so? Grandpa Morris adjusted his glasses thoughtfully. Then I'm afraid I'll have no choice but to contest it legally. What? They spoke in unison. Perhaps you should see this first. He pulled out his tablet and pressed play on a video. The screen showed Grandpa Henry in his hospital bed, surrounded by my siblings. Their voices came through with perfect clarity. Grandpa Henry, we should discuss your patents, Meredith was saying. With your condition, it might be prudent to prepare a will. We can help you draft it right now. You're right. I should get my affairs in order, Grandpa Henry agreed weakly. Shouldn't we call Grandpa Morris in to discuss this? He asked. No need to bother him, Meredith replied quickly. The patents you develop together will naturally remain half his anyway. This is just to clarify the distribution of your personal share. I understand, Grandpa Henry nodded. The video showed him writing something, though the paper wasn't clearly visible. Suddenly, Meredith leaned into the frame. Grandpa Henry, since this is just a preliminary draft, only include Trent's and my names for now. Pardon? Confusion crossed his face. Handwritten wills can cause legal complications, she explained authoritatively. The standard practice now is digital documentation. We'll create the proper version on the computer based on your notes. I see, he murmured. For efficiency, just write our two names. We'll formalize everything later, she pressed. 2 names would be easier than 3, considering your condition, Trent added. But Caitlin should be included, Grandpa Henry insisted. My shift starts soon, could we finish quickly? Of course, sorry, Meredith apologized. Promise me you'll add Caitlin's name in the final document. Absolutely. We're family, after all, Meredith assured with practiced sincerity. The video ended. I sat stunned by their calculated deception. Any explanation? Grandpa Morris asked them calmly. Trent had gone ashen, but Meredith maintained her composure. That doesn't show the actual will. It proves nothing, she argued. That's precisely why I mentioned legal action, Grandpa Morris replied evenly. I suspected your motives from the beginning. You were only interested in Henry's patents and royalties. Thankfully, he never realized your true intentions. When this forged document is invalidated, you'll receive nothing. Do you have sufficient resources to hire adequate legal representation? Recording us secretly. How disgustingly underhanded, Meredith hissed. Daniel, the hospice specialist, made this recording when he noticed your suspicious behavior. He's prepared to testify. I'm underhanded? Meredith scoffed. That's rich coming from you, old man. Grandpa Morris filed a lawsuit without hesitation. The legal battle lasted a full year, but ultimately, the court ruled in our favor. My siblings lost all claims to the patents and inheritance, left stunned by the outcome. Had they simply accepted their original share, nearly $600,000 each, they would have been financially secure. Instead, greed had cost them everything. Their courtroom behavior was appalling, shouting accusations until security officers physically removed them. I hope this humiliating defeat might finally change their perspective, but I underestimated their delusion. The day after the verdict, they intercepted me in the hospital parking lot after my shift. Caitlin. You got Grandpa Henry's patent royalties, right? Meredith demanded, blocking my car door. Yes, I answered cautiously, clutching my keys. Listen, we're still family. Trent and I are having financial difficulties. As siblings, couldn't you share some of that inheritance with us? I exhaled slowly, choosing my words carefully. I could hire you both. Meredith, you could manage the household. Trent, you could drive Grandpa Morris to his appointments and meetings. I pay you each $1,800 monthly. Are you serious? Meredith's face contorted with rage. If you want financial support, you should provide a service of equal value. This sense of entitlement needs to stop. That's hypocritical coming from you, she sneered. Both our grandparents genuinely loved you. You repaid them with deception. Grandpa Morris investigated your finances. I know about the gambling debts and failed investments. You created your own problems. Now earn your way out of them. You were always their perfect little pet, Meredith hissed. Do you know how humiliating my childhood was? Everyone else had parents at school functions. I had an elderly professor with elbow patches and incomprehensible technical jargon. After enduring that mortification, I deserve compensation. Meredith, I replied quietly, we were fortunate. Despite losing our parents, we stayed together as siblings. Many orphaned children aren't so lucky. Can't you see that blessing? Without our grandparents, we'd have been separated into different foster homes. Being together was the greatest gift. My voice strengthened with conviction. I feel nothing but profound gratitude toward them, not one shred of resentment. I'm sorry, but you and Trent seem to have lost all perspective. Grandpa Morris is my true family. I don't need siblings who behave this way. I expected Meredith's usual explosion, but surprisingly, she just stared at the ground. Trent shifted uncomfortably beside her. Without another word, I got in my car and drove away. After that confrontation, my siblings vanished from our lives, no ambushes, no visits, no calls. But each Christmas, a card arrives from them. In the corner, written in small precise numbers, their remaining debt balance. They seem to be repaying what they owe, slowly but steadily. Grandpa Morris examines these cards with a thoughtful smile. Perhaps the lawsuit was his final teaching moment, tough love from a lifelong educator. I hope they eventually find peace and perspective. Meanwhile, I continue living in the guest house, cherishing my daily conversations with Grandpa Morris. Together, we honor Grandpa Henry's memory through the scholarship fund we established with the patent royalties, supporting engineering students who, like us, have lost parents too soon. In the end, our true inheritance wasn't financial at all, but the values our grandparents instilled in us, integrity, compassion, and gratitude, lessons worth far more than any patent portfolio could ever be.